It's 1999, and a groundbreaking movie hits the theaters. The Matrix introduces a world where everything we perceive as reality is nothing more than a computer simulation designed to keep humans enslaved. As thrilling and fictional as the story was, it sparked a philosophical question that has refused to die. What if this isn't fiction? What if, right now, our lives are nothing more than a highly advanced simulation created by beings far more sophisticated than we can imagine? And more importantly, how would we know? The idea sounds like it belongs in science fiction, but some of the most brilliant minds of our time have seriously entertained it. Physicist and entrepreneur Elon Musk famously said there's a 1 in a billion chance that we are not living in a simulation. Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom wrote a detailed academic paper outlining the possibility that we are existing inside a computer-generated reality. And when you dig into the layers of this theory, it's hard not to wonder, what if they're right? What if everything, our relationships, our triumphs, even our deepest emotions, are nothing more than lines of code in a cosmic video game? Before we dive into the evidence that fuels the simulation theory, we must first confront a more basic question. If we were in a simulation, how could we possibly know? By definition, a simulation would be designed to be indistinguishable from reality. In other words, it's meant to fool us. So what would it take to realize we're trapped inside a simulated world? Rene Descartes, the French philosopher, famously asked, "What can I know for certain?" His method of doubt led him to the conclusion that the only thing he could know for sure was that he was thinking, "I think, therefore I am." But what about everything else? Descartes entertained the idea that a powerful, deceptive entity could be manipulating his perceptions, making him believe in a reality that didn't exist. Sound familiar? Descartes' evil demon could easily be swapped out for today's simulation hypothesis. Both ideas revolve around the unsettling possibility that our perceptions cannot be trusted. What if all our sensory experiences, the feeling of the sun on our skin, the taste of coffee in the morning, the sound of birds chirping, are nothing more than inputs from an incredibly sophisticated simulation? But let's break it down even further. If we are in a simulation, there must be glitches, those little cracks where the digital seams of the program show through. Could those strange moments when we feel déjà vu or the eerie coincidences in our lives be evidence of a malfunctioning simulation? Are we brushing up against the boundaries of reality without even realizing it? In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom presented the world with what's now known as the simulation argument. He argued that one of three possibilities must be true. 1. Advanced civilizations never reach a level of technological sophistication capable of creating realistic simulations of consciousness. 2. Advanced civilizations can create simulations, but they choose not to. 3. We are almost certainly living in a simulation. Bostrom's third point is the one that grabs headlines. If a civilization were able to create highly advanced simulations, perhaps indistinguishable from reality, it stands to reason they could create millions, if not billions of them. If that's the case, the odds that our reality is the real one, as opposed to one of the countless simulations, are staggeringly low. In fact, it's more statistically likely that we're in a simulation than not. Why? Think of it like this. If advanced beings could simulate entire universes, they could simulate not just one, but many. The sheer number of simulated realities would far outnumber the single, real one. It's a numbers game, and if the universe is playing the odds, we're probably living inside a virtual construct rather than the genuine article. One of the most intriguing aspects of the simulation theory is the idea of glitches in the matrix, moments where the illusion of reality falters, allowing us to peek behind the digital curtain. In the Matrix, this was symbolized by déjà vu. When Neo sees a cat walk past twice in the exact same way, he realizes it's a glitch, a momentary slip in the Matrix's programming. In our world, we often experience odd coincidences or eerie feelings that suggest something is off. Consider the phenomenon of the Mandela effect, where large groups of people misremember significant details about the past in the same way. Some people swear that the Berenstain Bears was originally spelled Berenstein, while others vividly recall Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, even though he lived until 2013. Are these examples of faulty human memory, or are they evidence of minor rewrites in the code of our simulated reality? What if the Mandela effect is our version of a software patch, an update to the program that slightly changes the past without erasing the original entirely? Another compelling example is the strange phenomenon of people experiencing a near-death event only to have their lives dramatically altered afterward. Some describe it as living in a different reality, where everything feels slightly skewed. Could these experiences be the result of a glitch, an error in the simulation that momentarily breaks the illusion? If we are living in a simulation, there might be clues hidden within the very laws of physics. Theoretical physicist James Gates discovered something strange when studying the equations of string theory. He found what appeared to be computer code, specifically error-correcting codes, embedded in the mathematical descriptions of the universe. These codes are similar to those that allow computers to correct errors in data transmission. Why would the universe have error-correcting codes embedded within its fundamental structure? Some have taken this as potential evidence that the universe itself is a programmed simulation, and these codes are the mechanisms that keep the simulation running smoothly. Just like a video game that uses code to keep characters and environments from glitching, perhaps our universe uses similar codes to maintain order. Another potential clue lies in quantum mechanics, particularly the famous double-slit experiment. When scientists observe particles, such as electrons, they behave like solid objects. But when they aren't being observed, they behave like waves, existing in multiple places at once. It's as if the particles know they are being watched and collapse into a single reality. Could this be a hint that the universe operates like a computer simulation? In video games, the environment only fully renders when the player is looking at it. When you're not looking, the game conserves resources by not generating details that aren't immediately visible. Similarly, is the universe only rendering reality when we observe it? Let's entertain the possibility that we are living in a simulation. That raises an even bigger question. Why? Why would an advanced civilization go to the trouble of creating an elaborate simulation like ours? What's the point? One possibility is that we are part of a grand experiment. Just as scientists run simulations to model the spread of diseases or the effects of climate change, an advanced civilization could be running a simulation to study the behavior of intelligent life. They could be trying to understand how civilizations evolve, how societies collapse, or how beings interact with their environment. Another possibility is that we are living in a form of entertainment. In a future where technology has advanced to the point where creating simulated worlds is trivial, perhaps beings run simulations for fun, like an extremely advanced version of The Sims. If you've ever played a game like SimCity or Civilization, you know the satisfaction of creating and managing a world. What if, to our creators, we are nothing more than a cosmic pastime? But there's a darker possibility. What if our creators are indifferent to our suffering? In Ellison's "I have no mouth and I must scream," a superintelligent AI tortures the last remnants of humanity for eternity. What if we are living in a simulation where suffering, conflict, and chaos are part of the design? If our world seems brutal at times, perhaps it's because it was programmed that way. Let's flip the script for a moment. Imagine that in the distant future, humanity develops the capability to create highly advanced simulations where the inhabitants are conscious beings, unaware that they are living in a fabricated world. The question is, would it be ethical to create such a simulation? If we assume that beings inside the simulation have thoughts, feelings, and experiences just like we do, then their suffering would be real, even if the world they live in is artificial. Should we feel responsible for the lives we create within these virtual worlds? Would it be morally wrong to subject conscious beings to hardship, pain, or even death, knowing they aren't real in the conventional sense? These ethical questions become even more troubling when we consider the possibility that we too could be simulated beings. If our suffering is real, but our world is not, does that diminish the value of our experiences? Or does the fact that we experience joy, love, and pain make our lives meaningful, regardless of their origin? Finally, we come to the ultimate question. If we are living in a simulation, can we escape it? This is where the boundaries of philosophy and science start to blur. Could we somehow hack the simulation, find a way to break free, and discover the real world outside? Some theorists suggest that there might be ways to test the simulation hypothesis. For example, physicists could look for anomalies in the fabric of space and time, small inconsistencies that could reveal the limits of the simulation. Others believe that advances in AI and virtual reality could eventually give us the tools to recognize the artificial nature of our own reality. But even if we were to escape the simulation, we might face a more unsettling possibility, that there is no real world outside. What if our simulation is embedded within another simulation, which is embedded in yet another? It's the philosophical equivalent of Russian nesting dolls, a simulation within a simulation within a simulation, with no ultimate reality to be found. So the next time you feel like something is off in your life, when the coincidences pile up or reality doesn't seem to make sense, consider this. Maybe it's just a glitch in the matrix. Or maybe, just maybe, you're brushing up against the edges of the simulation that governs your world. And if that's the case, the real question isn't whether we're in a simulation. It's whether it even matters. Because as long as we feel, think, and exist, perhaps the reality of our world is less important than we think.